Good morning everybody, today is a very exciting day. I actually was going to come into the unit yesterday and then I saw on eBay and other delivery emails that everything would actually be delivered today. So I hold off till today. I got some work done yesterday and I've come in today and I've had tons of parcels that have been delivered and I've got tons of cool shit that we need for both cars, the E30 and the Reliant. So I'm a bit excited, so give me a minute. So my plan is, it's early in the morning, I'm going to rack off a load of jobs on the E30 and hopefully get a load done, and then I'm going to film a video on the Reliant with some other cool shit that's been delivered. So without any further ado, we're not going to do much of an intro. I've got tons of stuff here lying on the floor. I'll talk about it part by part when we get onto it, so let's just crack on. The first thing that we've got, big thing that I really need, is because this is one of the things that's stopping me from installing a load of other stuff. So we've got a radiator here. So we've got a radiator from Oliver Evans, we've got a load of bits here from Oliver Evans as well. Thank you Oliver Evans, and thank you Oliver Evans, I know you're watching this, thank you for including this. I said, include that plate mate. He said, mate, I cost you about 50 quid. I said, no it didn't. And then he didn't reply. I was like, he's not going to include the plate. But he included the plate. That's not for the radiator, that's for something else. But anyway. Oh my god, that was loud. I measured chassis leg to chassis leg, and I thought this is going to be an easy fit. I've just put it up. I got the measurements wrong. Well, I didn't get the measurements wrong, I just kind of got the positioning wrong, and it's not going to be an easy fit. Let me show you. Now when I was chatting to Ollie, he said, I've got a load of radiators here, what kind of size you need? And I wasn't in front of the car, I kind of just like, you know, envisioned it in my head. So I measured chassis leg to chassis leg, and I was like, yeah, I've got a load of room. But what actually happened is, see this bit here, this is where the radiator needs to sit, and we've got this big bit of metal here on either side. So I'm like, now the radiator doesn't fit. So what we're gonna have to do is instead, we're gonna have to find somewhere else to fit it. And what I mean by somewhere else to fit it, is to get a grinder and make it fit. I don't wanna chop off these big bits of metal here because they seem pretty structural. So instead, I'm gonna try and put the radiator in front under this bar here, because then we can just chop the bumper around it and make the lights fit. I'm not too bothered about that. What we are gonna have to do, I'm gonna try and make it fit in this gap here. These off, we're going to chop these little things off here because we don't need them. We're going to chop them off and hopefully the radiator slides in there.
Right, so let's get cutting everything that potentially might get in the way of this radiator. But first of all, I'm not getting anything in my eye again. Let me get a visor on. And I also decided at this point it would be a good idea probably to remove all of the front bumper and all of the front bash support, just so we can get full access to everything.
Okay, so I found a way to mount the radiator. It's not exactly perfect, but I think it's going to work. If worst case, we can run this for the time being. If we want to change it in the future, we can. So the radiator, ideally, I would like it sitting, you know, in there underneath and up against it, but we're never going to be able to get the radiator cap off. So what we're going to do is I've actually ran this line underneath. So this line goes underneath into the bottom of the rad, just here, and then obviously the top rad goes on. I probably might get a shorter hose because it's a bit too big for this, but it bolts on, it should hold fine. And then what we're going to do is we're going to run it, obviously not flat, but we're going to run it at an angle in the car. So we're going to literally run it like that, and therefore it sits in the right position. Obviously it's a bit wonky at the minute, it's not bolted. It sits in the right position, and we can actually get to the radiator cap as well, which is here. So as you see, it's not going to be sitting flat, but it's going to be sitting at a little bit of an angle, but to me, that's fine. And I've actually test fitted the fans, and they actually fit on in this application as well, so they'll just sit there like that with a few cable ties through them, and literally as simple as that. So that is going to be our rad. Now the positive of this is that if you actually sat the rad inside there, I wouldn't be able to get the fans on with the water pump. And also, if I ever had to change the belt or do any work on the front of the engine, the rad would have to come off. So I actually prefer it in this position like this now. So all we're gonna have to do is, well, so when we want to, you know, fab it all up totally, we'll just make some little brackets here, little Z-shaped bracket, and we'll bolt it to that, and we can do the same for the bottom as well. Now the bumper support actually still fits, which is good news, because we'll be able to fit our aftermarket bumper. But I don't even know if I'm actually going to run this, and if we are going to run this, don't worry, we'll just cut a hole down just so the rad's getting a good airflow. Radiator is installed. Now a lot of my fuel things have turned up. Unfortunately not all of them, because I wasn't sure. I tried to save a bit of money. I ordered all these from Torx. I wanted all my fittings to be good quality, so I've got all my fittings from Torx. You don't understand how much AN fittings are. Oh my god, I've spent like £200 on a few fittings and a bit of fuel line. So I wanted to save a little bit of money on the fuel line, so I found some fuel line half price somewhere else. Unfortunately, that wasn't next day delivery, so all my fittings have turned up my fuel line hazards. It's very annoying, but I got a few fittings wrong anyway, so I had to order some more from Tortoise, but they'll probably be here today. But what has turned up are my aluminium spacers. So this is going to lift the fuel tank off the boot floor. Now the reason we've got to lift the fuel tank off the boot floor is for this reason here. Can you see that it's lifted? Basically, we have almost like a fuel feed, which is a little bit lower than the fuel tank. So unless we lift this fuel tank off the floor or cut a hole in the floor, obviously that's not going to sit flat. So what I've done is instead I've ordered these 50mm aluminium spacers, and this is just going to allow us to just put it on little platforms, and that's going to lift the fuel tank above the floor. So I'm going to find out where I want the fuel tank, and then we're going to drill 4 holes in the floor, and we're going to bolt it up, and we're going to space it off the boot floor.
Now I definitely don't have OCD, but this was annoying me. I did want it central in the boot, but there was different ridges on the boot floor, and I did want it to sit flat. I kind of just chose this area just so it properly would sit flat and it would bolt flat, but it is kind of off center a little bit, but I don't think it's that big of an issue. And that's pretty much it. It's just bolted straight to the boot floor with some long M8 bolts. I'm going to see how that goes. If I do find it's like vibrating or rattling or anything like that, I'll just put some rubber washers in between, but for now it's good to go.
So my fuel lines have turned up, which means we can actually start running the fuel lines in the back of the car to the front. Unless my banjo bolt turns up today, which is for the front of the fuel rail, we might not be able to start it. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set up all the fuel lines now and get them all running to the front of the car. So if my banjo bolt does turn up today, we'll actually potentially be able to start it, which is going to be fucking insane. So let's start running all these lines and let's start getting all our AN10 fittings on.
Now I'm extremely lucky that my swirl pot came with all of the connections on, because I'm not gonna lie, these AM fittings are about £10 each. So if you need 10, 15, 20 of them, you're looking at a lot of money, and that's just without the fuel line. So I actually already had most things, but there's one thing I need to change on here, because one of them's straight and I need to change it for a 90 degree that I bought. Now a few people told me to buy the aluminium spanner, and then obviously that doesn't scratch the paint and they're in a bit of a weird size, but I found that 2 19mm spanners worked perfect. I didn't really scratch the paint. Was it the best practice? Probably not. Did it work? Absolutely. Now we're going to have 2 fuel lines running from the back of the car to the front, and I'm going to run them inside just because it's easier. We're going to have one which is a fuel feed that's going to go from the back to the front of the engine, then we're going to have the fuel return, which is obviously from the engine back to the swirl pot. So this is the first time actually making my own fuel lines, my own AN fittings, and having to cut it down, and oh my god, what a nightmare. I could not find a way to stop the fuel line from fraying at the end, meaning I couldn't get the connectors on. I tried electrical tape and grinding, electrical tape and a hacksaw, and honestly there was only one way to do it.
This is my line made, which is going to go from the fuel tank into my lift pump. The only way I found out that to work, and trust me, I have been trying every single different technique with a hacksaw here, I've got masking tape, I've got electrical tape. The only way that really works is by wrapping masking tape round tight, cutting it with a grinder, and then leaving the masking tape on, and then trying to peel the masking tape off. This is literally the only way that gets to work. Every other single way, it just frays.
And don't even try to screw it on by hand. It's not going to work and you're just going to fray it. Just line it up, get a gun and send it.
It's the only way. And a lot of the times it gets really tight and we're not even anywhere near. So what I like to do is, what I found what works, is come off. So just bring it all the way out, spray a little bit more lube and go back in. And that seems to work well. A bit more lube. I'm going again. And then for some reason that works. I don't know if it's just stretching out the first bit of cable and then you come out and then obviously then you just tighten it into the last bit. I'm not sure, but it usually helps massively. Okay, so I just spent quite a while doing all the fuel lines. It was a bit of a pain, but we've ran them all. Everything's tight, everything's plumbed in. Fuel lines coming right to the front of the car. I do need a banjo bolt like this. This goes straight onto the fuel rail, so I've ordered one of these as an AN to a banjo. I think it's a 12mm banjo. I said it's either going to be tomorrow or next week. I actually want to get this car started, and I think it potentially can actually start. Once we've widened the fuel pumps and everything, the car potentially might start. I've just sorted out one of the grounds to the front as well, which I was a bit worried about. We just drilled through the chassis leg and just put a nut and bolt through there. But what I've done is, this is the original one, and there's usually a fuel line crimped onto this. I've cut it and I've took it off. So now we can actually bolt this to the fuel rail, and we can actually, just for the time being, for a short time, we can push fit on the fuel line, and we're going to get fuel, and we could potentially start the car. So I'm going to go next door, get a bunch of wiring, get a bunch of relays, get some switches, come back in, and we're going to wire up properly the fuel pumps. And once those fuel pumps are wired up, we've literally just got to give it the battery. We've got to do one more ground, which is on the engine, and if everything's working, everything's plugged in, it should actually start. So the potential of actually starting this video depending how long it takes me to wire up the fuel pump. So give me 5 minutes, I'm going to run next door and pray they've got everything that I need. Right, so I've just been to Health Roads and I bought a bunch of relays, bunch of wiring and a bunch of switches, or well, a singular switch. So now we've got more boring, annoying wiring to do. So I'm going to show you how to properly wire up something on relays.
So first we've got to ground the fuel pumps, and instead of running wires all the way through the middle of the car, we're just going to ground it to the chassis. So there's actually a thicker bit of metal on the left hand side of the boot floor. We're going to drill a hole through there, clean off the paint, and just bolt them straight to the chassis.
Okay, so we've got a 3-pin switch here. So this will be able to do fuel pump 1 off or fuel pump 2. We're never going to be running the pumps at the same time, so we just don't really need that much fuel. And if it gets to the point where we do, then we can buy another switch. So what we're going to do is we're going to be running the 2 different pumps on 2 different circuits. Ideally, we only really need to run 1, but while I'm doing it, I'm just going to run 2. So we've got 2 different relays as well. This is going to be a relay for fuel pump 1. I've got another relay for fuel pump 2. It's good to run a relay on things which are miles apart from each other, because you've got a lot of current going through the wires. So we've got the battery's going to go here actually. We've got the battery here, and then the fuse, and then the fuel pumps in the back. And also on things that are going to be turned on for a long time, it's going to get hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter, and it's going to burn out this switch. Now, I learnt this from one of the guys over here the other day, and it made sense, because in the Mustang I ran my fan straight to a switch. After about 3 laps, it just killed the switch stopped working, so I had to just put them together. Now I know why, because I didn't run a relay, and the current being drawn kills the switch. These aren't meant to take a lot of current, so the relay does the hard work and the switch just turns it on and off. So we've got a relay for each pump, and I'm going to show you how to wire up a relay.
This is a 4-pin relay, super simple. This is fused as well, so it stops us having to run an inline fuse. Now the instructions are actually on the back of the thing what you're buying from, or you can get them online. So pin number 30, so this is a 12 volt, so you need to put this straight to the battery. Number 30 goes straight to the battery, so it's constantly got 12 volts. Number 85, which is over this side, is an earth, so this needs to be constantly earthed as well, so you need to ground this to the car. 86 is the switch, so the switch will go from the switch to here. So wherever your switch is, when the switch is on, you need to switch input to here, and then last but not least, the output. So this goes to the fuel pump. Same again, to keep things simple, we're just going to ground it straight to the car. So we're going to drill a hole, we're going to clean the paint off, and we're just going to do a bolt straight through there. And this is going to be the shared ground for both relays.
So here we go again. I've got everything plugged in, all the grounds are plugged in, all the grounds are grounded properly. I've checked all the grounds, but I've got a jumper pack going straight to the terminals, and nothing. I'm getting nothing on the dash. I'm getting a red battery light, and that's it. I'm getting nothing lighting up on the dash. My only worry is that there's 4 plugs in the back of the dash, but I only have 3 on my wiring loom, and I can't remember if I had 4. And if I did have 4, where the fuck's it gone? Potentially, I wouldn't have cut it off, because I labelled all the dash ones pretty much straight away. And I only chopped off plugs, which I plugged in and plugged out, and I wouldn't chop off a dash plug unless I've been really stupid. I've even just tried turning the key and nothing's happening. Absolutely nothing is happening. So, again, shit wiring is just holding me up. I just wanted to at least just start to get the dash lighting up, but the dash just won't do anything. So I'm going to try something bodgy as shit, alright? What I'm going to do is I've just got the engine away from the firewall, and I'm going to bridge the starter relay. Now this is a Japanese relay, and it's not an English relay, and it's got the wrong numbers on it, but I've done some research and I'm pretty sure well, I don't know, I'm hoping that I've got the right ones. So I know which one's getting power, which is this one, and then nothing happened then. So I'm trying to just bypass the starter relay and just see if it cranks. Nothing's happening. Now I don't know if that's just because I'm on the wrong terminal, because these fucking relays aren't the normal number. Let's try this one. So at least I know which one it is. It's pretty scary. Right, well, it's cranking. Well, that's good news. So it's nothing power related to the starter. It's got to be something dash related, and it's not sending the signal wire. It's cranking. It's got to be signal related. I think what we've got to do is we've got to finish setting up the fuel pumps. And I think we turn the fuel pumps on and come in here and crank it. So we're giving it fuel. All it needs to do then is just control the, well, just hope the ECU's working, do you know what I mean? And if the ECU's plugged in, and the ECU's actually doing its job, you know, and it's controlling the timing and everything, then we're good. But like, it's cranking. I've got one final idea before I go over, so I'm getting tired. So what we've done there is, what you can do to bridge a relay is you can bridge the 12 volt live, and you bridge that to the output. Now what bridges that itself is the signal wire. So the signal wire will come in and that will turn on. That's your input from your switch, like we did with the fuel pump. You have an input from your switch, you'll turn that on, and then that'll bridge over to the output. Now obviously that isn't happening when we turn the key. For some reason the signal wire is not being sent to the starter. But now that we know which one does what, we can actually use a probe and we can give this power, boom, and that's going to act as our signal wire. We've got power. When I touch this, it should crank. Boom. So what we can do is, worst case, we can send fuel. I'm not going to do that now because I still need to plug up all the fuel lines. We'll do that in the next video. We can send fuel. We can put the, obviously the fuel pumps are going to be on a switch anyway, so they're going to be sending, that's going to be fine. And then all we can do is we can literally send our own signal wire. Imagine this is like a switch inside the car, and we go, so we got it on, we go, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to turn our switch, boom, 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 boom. I mean, I'm not getting a good connection, but you know, you get the idea. It sounds fucking horrible, is it? So we can work around it. I mean, obviously I want a dash, but like, even if the dash doesn't like, I know that this engine runs without a dash. So if it is a dash problem, it's not really a big deal. I mean, yes, it'd be cool to have a dash in terms of like knowing what RPM we're doing and stuff. But for main things, but do I really care? I don't think we do. I don't really think we need it massively. Not for obviously being a drift car, because the main things like coolant temp and oil temp and all these things, I can literally just run them off a gauge. So we don't really need the dash. So if the car wants to play tough, we'll just say, we don't fucking need you, mate. So come on, dash, if you don't want to light up, you can fuck off, because we don't fucking need you, bro. Do you know what I mean? We've got our own little signal right here. So yeah, there's a way around it. Obviously it'd be nice to have the dash working, but the main thing is just actually making sure that the engine actually runs. I'm hoping that there isn't a big wiring problem, and I'm hoping that the ECU is going to actually do its job. The only way we're going to know that is by sending fuel and using our little probe and see if it runs. So we're going to do that in the next episode, and it better fucking run, because I want to get out. I want to get out and do some sends, boy. So we'll see you in the next video, lads.